call to order the regular meeting of the West Valley City Council tonight, and let the roll call show that all members of the council are present this evening. And we have Assistant City Manager Paul Isaac filling in for City Manager Wayne Pyle for a little bit while he takes care of something outside here. Each week we take turns for an opening ceremony. It's my turn this week, and I have asked one of the scouts in our presence, Carlos Munoz, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So Carlos, you can come up to the microphone, and then you know how to do it from there.
All rise and repeat the pledge after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Thank you. Carlos, while you're at the microphone, why don't you tell us what your troop number is and what school you go to and what badge your group's working on tonight.
Okay, so we're the Royal Land Troop, Troop 535. We're currently working on citizenship in the community, and each of us is from either Hunter High School, a couple of us from Kennedy Junior High, and one of us in particular from Hunter Elementary.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate that. And that's Paul Isaac's neck of the woods, isn't it?
You bet. Proud of them.
Those are all three of my schools that I
graduated.
There
you go.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate having you. We have some other scout groups with us today. Is there a senior patrol leader from this group that'd like to come up and do a similar introduction? And following him, we'll have someone from the back group. At least you guys all sat apart, so I can tell where one scout troop ends and one starts.
All right, I'm Ian Cartmel. We are Troop 629. I go to Granger, and some of them go to Westlake and Hillsdale Elementary, or Westlake Junior, sorry. And tonight we'll be working on the citizenship in the community bench.
Great, thank you. Well, that's what my wife did. She did Hillsdale, Westlake, and
Look at that.
Granger. There you go.
Okay, let's see what's next.
Okay, group. We're curious to hear where you're all from.
I'm Grant Boss, and we're Troop 1273, and I go to Eisenhower, but most of them go to like Westlake or Hunter, and we live in the Highbury subdivision, and we're working on citizenship in the community.
Great, well, welcome. And there's an item on tonight's agenda dealing with the Highbury subdivision, so that may be of particular interest to you boys. And we do appreciate the scouts that take the time to come and learn more about our community. Be sure on your way out tonight to check out the new aerial photo map that was posted in the hall and try to find where your home lives and where your home is and some other features. I think that's one of those requirements. So good to have you with us. Item 5 tonight is the approval of our minutes. Council, we have the minutes of February 12th to be considered. Any motions there?
Move for approval of the minutes of February 12th. Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Item 6 tonight, we have a special proclamation, and we've asked Councilmember Corey Rushton to make this on our behalf this evening. Councilman?
Great. Thank you, Mayor. And we get these requests from time to time, and sometimes mine download, and sometimes they don't. But this is the 100 years that the March 4th, actually next week, will be the centennial 100-year anniversary with the United States created the Department of Labor. And so the proclamation that we have before the City Council reads as follows. Whereas for the past 100 years, the United States Department of Labor has fostered, promoted, and developed the welfare of wage earners, job seekers, and retirees of the community. And whereas the United States Department of Labor has continually sought to make the American workplace safer, healthier, and fairer for everyone. And whereas working families in West Valley City, across the country, and across the world have benefited from the United States Department of Labor's efforts to assure work-related benefits and rights, including the right to be paid fairly even for every hour labored. And whereas the United States Department of Labor has evolved to meet the challenging needs of a changing workforce by partnering with employers, community organizations, and institutions of higher learning to improve job training, provide lifelong learning opportunities, and advance efforts for profitable employment. And whereas the impact of the United States Department of Labor has reached outside the confines of the workplace, touching people's lives at all stages by allowing parents to take leave and tend to loved ones, training veterans and young people for careers of a lifetime, and guaranteeing the pensions of retired workers. And whereas the inestimable value of these services provided by the United States Department of Labor will remain of paramount importance to the well-being of all Americans, and that it will address tomorrow's conditions and meet the needs of future workers with the same insight, foresight, and passion it has shown for the past century. Now, therefore, we as the West Valley City Council ask that all residents of this community join in celebrating Monday, March 4th, 2013 as the centennial anniversary of the United States Department of Labor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rushton. Item 7 tonight is our comment period, where sometimes people sign up where they want to address us on any miscellaneous item. Is there anyone who signed up this evening in public? No? Mr. City Manager, any comments you have? How about council? Any comments you have?
Just one quick comment. I found out this year, I know Mr. Isaac in our strategic planning meeting mentioned about the 100-year anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America, and I said, well, that was a few years ago when I was first elected. It's actually the 100-year anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America being in Utah. So our first councils were and troops were organized 100 years ago this year. So we're happy to welcome all of you out, and I know I just got my invitation in the mail as a leader about Scoutorama, so you get a special 100-year shoulder patch if you participate in Scoutorama this year. So I've done my bit for the Scouts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else on the council would like to comment in the comment period today? Okay, let's go on. We do have an item, an application S-18-2012, which is in regarding ordinance 13-08. This is the Highbury subdivision matter we mentioned. And so, Mr. Isaac, if you could please introduce this topic, and then I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. It is a public hearing, and this is an ordinance that would amend some of the lots that are down there at Highbury subdivision near the Target. Notice all the vacant lots down there. Mr. Terry Roylands, representing Suburban Land Reserve, is requesting an amendment to these lots to create 2 additional commercial property pads for further development.
Okay, thank you. I now open the public hearing regarding ordinance 13-08. Is there anyone who's come to speak for or against this proposed ordinance? Okay, sir in the back, Mr. Markham. As you know, come to the microphone and state your name and address, please, for our minutes, and let us know what's on your mind.
Mike Markham, 3008 Alice Circuit. Personally, I don't care if this goes in. This is the same organization, an arm of the organization that has the lot down here. Until they take care of that lot, they can't have, I don't think they should have their lots. Do you know which lot I'm talking about?
One on Lancer Way here, where a LDS church building once was and is now torn down.
Since it's been torn down for about 12 years, I believe, was the information I gave to Councilman Bueller, with the make-believe fence that continues has to be repaired because somebody keeps cutting holes in it so they can access their backyard. Pretty soon we're going to have to stand up and say, you know, the body of this arm, take care of that property. It's an eyesore in the city. It's a beautiful piece of property up on the east side of town that I've quoted to you on numerous occasions. Mr. Bueller tells me he spoke with the state president that is over this piece of property, and apparently he approves of it, but yet the state president on the east side of town prefers the property to be taken care of. We need to change mentalities here in this city. I don't care what the organization is. I'll get on anybody. But I think you need to take responsibility for your property. And if it's dragging a community down, let's step up. So think about that as you're going to approve what they want. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in this public hearing who's come to speak for or against or provide other information for 13-08? Okay, I now close the public hearing and turn it over to the council for their pleasure. They can make a motion or...
No, I appreciate Mr. Markham's comments. I think we have an opportunity as a council to not allow even good projects such as this to continue unless a property owner takes care of other projects in our community. something that has been sitting for a long time, without any improvement, without any permanent plan, without being sold, with a linked together temporary fence around it that is really an eyesore, a big eyesore, and everybody knows what used to be there, and everybody knows that the LDS Church is ignoring that property. And maybe we don't approve this until they clean up that property or commit to do so.
Okay. Any other discussions or questions or motions? Mr. Isaac, does staff have any comment on that topic?
I don't believe so, sir. I mean,
So I thought we had some staff conversation with that group at one point on that topic, but maybe
well, we have been negotiating with even the church in terms of that stake president to see what we could do with that property, and we haven't. It hasn't come to any kind of provision. I do know that in personally talking with that particular gentleman, that you know, they would just as soon get rid of that property as well. They don't want to maintain it. They have a hard time maintaining it apparently, and but other than that, I can't give you any clarification on anything different.
Well, I don't think they have the funds to maintain it, but their funds are regulated by the greater organization that does have the funds to maintain it.
Well, it's an interesting question, because as we met earlier with the Planning Commission and tried to talk about parcels and approving things and zones, and maybe on the little quiz we had, it was, you know, is it appropriate to deny a certain applicant a zone change, or in this case application for the subdivision amendments? But is it appropriate to deny something based on an existing piece of property somewhere else? And I guess I don't immediately know the answer to that question. How I would put that on my 2014 planning and zoning quiz. So maybe be interested to hear and others' thoughts or professional opinion on that.
it would be sad to judge, say, Suburban Land Reserve, in this case, the applicant, on a request that I would guess has broad appeal and is very logical with all the other positive developments going on there by the Target on 5600 West in the Highbury area, and to hold that hostage, if you will, just because their parent company isn't maintaining property. But on the other hand, we may not have a lot of other leverage.
Clean your house and come back in 2 weeks.
If I could, our staff is,
that's right.
Mr. Rushton's question deserves to have an answer on record, I think, that would benefit the entire council.
Yes, so a couple of things. The first is a direct legal analysis on the issue. Whoa, sorry, too close. Still too close. So with regards to an application such as this, when we have a subdivision or an amendment to a subdivision before us, this is an administrative action, which means that if they have met the check in the boxes, then the council, by virtue of state law, shall approve that application. Secondary to that, tying land use applications to other pieces of property also would be a violation of state law. However, as the city manager has mentioned, we as staff are working actively on that other piece of property, and it is also completely within the boundary of law for the council to make a specific request of the applicant that they facilitate some discussion on that issue as well.
Okay. With that additional insight, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
I would then move, listening to Ms. Cottle's explanation, that we approve Ordinance 1308 with the caveat that the landowner of the property on Lancer Way also enter into discussions with us, because I know they're different departments of the same corporation, but they then enter into discussions with the city on how we can improve that portion on Lancer Way.
Okay. Staff, is that a legal motion in light of what we've heard?
I believe that is.
So is that a conditional motion that we approve this, but nothing happened until we have further discussions?
I see the staff here wants to say something.
No, sir. It wouldn't be a conditional motion, but it's certainly appropriate to add that caveat to the motion for a discussion purpose. Yes.
Right. I think
So I'm sorry, Ms. Kyle, so you're saying the motion is legal, provided that it's really an advisory, non-binding thing?
It's an encouragement
So
to,
we say, hey, well, the motion's to approve, but we ask you to work with your
That's right.
parent organization to
That's
help
right.
us clean up this other property.
That's right. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
May I ask a question? If the motion has to pass, why do we get to vote?
You are required to vote under state law.
And under state law, you're required to vote yes if they've checked all the boxes?
On an administrative function such as a subdivision plat, amendment, or approval, yes, sir.
And what happens to me if I don't vote yes?
Nothing.
Okay, well, that's good enough for me.
Well, and I think, I know there's not a second to the motion that's still kind of floating above the dais here, but I think the two ways to approach this, if this is what this body decides to do, is to go with the motion of Councilman Christensen and try to push these two divergent questions into, yes, approve the subdivision, but try to get some more action on the other end. Or the second logical thing to do would just be to delay action on it tonight and encourage to get see if the ball does get rolling this week, and then, approve it next week, because then you're not necessarily
So continue it to,
next week.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have a motion made. We do not yet have a second. If we can get a second on the motion, we can continue to have the discussion. If not, then the motion dies for lack of a second. We would like to make a second to Mr. Christensen's motion. Going once. Twice. Okay. The motion fails for lack of a second. Mr. Isaac, just a question for staff. Can staff help us understand the time sensitivity of Ordinance 1308?
well, it's a matter, I guess in my opinion, it's a matter of creating those two particular properties. I'm not sure whether or not those commercial properties are under.
Sir, that wasn't my question. My question is, what's the time sensitivity on Ordinance 1308? Whether it's this week or next week or a month from now.
Are you asking this time sensitivity as it relates to the applicant, what their time sensitivity is? Well, I think any applicant would say that is very sensitive. But we have not had any indication that that's of extreme sensitivity.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay, I see a hand in the audience. We've closed the public hearing, but if it's adding information to our discussion, as the chair of this body, I'd like to allow it. Sir, if you could come up to the microphone.
You can object.
I just say he would need to close this part, reopen the public hearing.
Would you like to do that? Well, I think parliamentarily, we do this all the time, where if we have someone with additional information on this. I don't think we need to be in a formal public
Well, and I
hearing.
think what you have here is you have an objection that's saying, no, it is closed, and so the right way to do it would be to just reopen the whole public hearing as it is.
I haven't heard an objection, but if there is one, then that would be the right
I
place.
have an objection unless you open up a public hearing.
Okay, now I have an objection. I'd like to reopen the public hearing so we can find some additional information here. All in favor of reopening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those who oppose? Okay, the majority has it. Go ahead, sir, and state your name and your address for the...
Yeah, Mark, Murdoch Gardner Company. We are the group that is purchasing the ground from SLR, and we're currently under contract with SLR, and we are slated to close. We're slated to close within 3 weeks, and so for us to be able to get the plat done, to record it, to have engineering sign off on it, and do everything we need, we are under an extreme time sensitivity. So I wasn't aware of another lot or issue. I had no idea that was even going to come up tonight. I can understand that's something that you guys want to have worked out, and I totally agree you should get it worked out. But I don't feel that it's fair. This is creating more economic value for the city. We're creating 2 more retail lots that are going to bring income into the city. So obviously do what you need to do, but from our standpoint, it is extremely time sensitive.
Okay, that's good information. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Mr. Roy Lance, since we're in the... Oh, and you've raised your hand anyway.
Roy Lance, SLR, 2859 Pineview Drive, Salt Lake City, Utah. We have opened up discussions with the church concerning this issue. We thought it was taken care of. They promised us it was. We will go back to them and put more pressure on them to see. We do have a curtain that has to divide the nonprofit from the profit side. We're on the profit side, so there's really only so much we can do, but we will certainly go back and try to facilitate that through our management side and get that. The presiding bishopric does handle both sides of the coins. So we will do everything we can to get that. That's a little discouraging to me that they still have that problem on Lancer Way because they promised us it would be taken care of. So we will certainly facilitate that. Whether you decide to go on tonight or not, we will go forward and try to get this resolved. But it is true, we are in a time sensitive. We're having several balls in the air at the same time. Target Corporation and also the purchaser, and they're very anxious. We finally got all the T's crossed and dots in the right place, and it's taken a lot of work to get it to this point. And we would hate to see this fail at this time. We really are in a time-sensitive crunch concerning this, both their funding and the other issues concerning our approval processes that are only good for so long. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roylance.
Can I ask one question before you get back? Is there a way of getting a commitment from your arm to come back to a study session and let us know the progress?
Be certainly happy to do that. You bet.
Can we get it on a study session schedule within a month so that we have
we will
another
be calling
meeting
tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
I'm very upset about this, so.
Because I would just like us to follow up and make sure it really is happening.
That's right, good point. Well, and you're before us on various matters all the time, and yeah. So it's understanding now today that the importance that this group and our constituents feel about this. We appreciate your legwork.
We do know it came up before. We opened up discussions immediately, and we were promised that it was taken care of. And maybe, is it the weeds? I don't know. I haven't been out there for a while. Is it the weeds that are growing up what?
It's the lack of attention to property on the west side is getting compared to the
What does that mean, though?
On the east side, they have nice wrought iron fences, maintained grass grounds, pavilions, parking lots. Out here, we have a makeshift fence and weeds.
It's sell the property, develop the property. All you did was tear down the church and put a fence around it. 12 years
chain link fence.
Do they bush hog the weeds?
Maybe once a year.
And that's pretty typical for a vacant lot. I know even on our vacant lots, we do that 1 or twice a year to keep the weeds down. So you would like it manicured or what?
Maybe they could just put up the same type fence and mow the lawn, make the lawn instead of weeds. Take the big piece of concrete pipe out of the middle of the lawn or whatever you want to call it that is there.
I'll talk to them, but typically on a vacant lot, you don't manicure the lot.
Why do they manicure the lot on the east side?
Okay, let's. Yeah, Mr. Roylance, our staff's a little more familiar with this as well and can also give you some guidance.
We'll certainly go out and take a look at it, and I would like to do that with staff if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else while we're in public comment period that'd like to say anything? Okay, I now reclose the public hearing and put it back to you, council, if there's any motions that would like to be made today. And
Mr. Mayor, as much as we have Mr. Roylance's commitment to investigate and see if we can improve that property, and as much as this is a good project and we ought to go forward with this project, I'm going to move for the approval of Ordinance 1308.
Second.
Okay, thank you both. Any discussion of that motion? Yes.
Yeah, I attended the planning commission meeting when this portion came up, and just a note of interest, there was a lot of discussion about the target's requirements for visibility, and this being part of solving that issue that they had with Target by moving that lot 2B over to allow that visibility for the Target. So it is kind of a complicated issue with this big retailer to maintain certain visibility to their stores, and so they've had to juggle this around in order to accommodate the Target store. So anyway, just a little note of some of the difficult challenges that they've had.
And by the way, I don't want the concern of the Lancer Way property to reflect in any way our pleasure with what SLR has been doing there and the high quality and Gardner Company, their great projects around the valley and in our city even. And we are very excited to see that area by Target continue to develop and flourish, and are very excited about some of the potential retail there. And And tonight's actions, assuming it would pass, would help make all that move forward. Any other discussions to this motion? Okay, I'll call the question. Let's do a roll call vote on this one, please.
Mr. Vincent?
Yes.
Ms. Blaine? Aye. Mr. Bueller?
Aye.
Mr. Hume?
Yes.
Mr. Rushton?
Aye.
Mr. Christensen?
Yes.
Mayor Winder?
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it, and 1308 has been approved unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
We now witness the changing of the guard as the city manager resumes his post and the assistant city manager goes back to the staff table. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Pyle, we're now on to ordinance 1309. If you could please introduce this one.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Okay, as we discussed in the study meeting last week, we are proposing a code change in which affects our. This is a code change that is required basically by some changes the state made to their statutes last year, which basically required the setup of an ethics review board for various matters that could. Potentially, none of these have arisen here in our city, but potentially could arise, and therefore they wanted us to establish a method of dealing with this. I know that discussion was held last week, and the basic outline was proposed to you at that time. So we're continuing to recommend adoption of that, although I know you may have some further questions or input.
Great, thank you, sir. And just for the education of the scouts, we meet each week at 4:30 in the adjacent room for a more informal study meeting, where we always review the items that will be on next week's agenda. So everything we talk about tonight, we've had at least 1 week to ponder and consider and hear more detailed presentations on. So if we go a little fast, it's not because we know long meetings are hard for scouts, it's because we have had at least 1 week to ponder all these issues. Council, anything on 1309, any motions, questions?
Yeah, as was brought up in discussion last week, we don't have an ethics problem. The state is creating an ethics committee. I'm not comfortable with creating our own ethics committee and staffing it with one city employee to decide if we are acting ethically, and would not be in favor of this action.
I might add that one city employee is the administrative law judge, and the recommendation of that individual would then come to the council, which would be purely advisory and non-binding, just for the sake of.
Which would be the same if we used the state's ethics committee. It would still come back to us, and we would decide what to do with that non-binding recommendation. But I think it looks better if it's been reviewed by somebody that isn't getting his check from us.
Okay, other discussion?
Especially when it's ethics.
Would anyone like to make a motion on 1309? Okay, the item fails for lack of a motion. Let's go on to our resolutions this evening. We have resolution 1327. Mr. Pyle, if you could please introduce that one.
Thank you, sir. This resolution would authorize the city to enter into an agreement with the Community Development Corporation of Utah. CDCU is, as you know, one of the governmental entities that provides help and expertise in trying to solve or at least mitigate many of the housing issues that we have throughout the Valley and Salt Lake County, and I think they operate throughout the state, as the name implies. We are proposing this agreement because we see them as a potential partner in our new neighborhood revitalization program that we're testing on a startup basis here in the next couple of months in the designated neighborhood. CDCU basically would provide the expertise of being able to go in and purchase and do a whole remodel or revitalization of a particular property. And even though that's only one facet or aspect of the overall program, it's not even really the focus of the program, it's an important piece of it. So we recommend approval of that.
Okay, thank you, sir. 1327, anyone like to make a motion or discuss this item?
Motion to approve resolution 13-27.
Thank you, Mr. Hoon. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Anyone like to speak to this item?
Just another comment. I've gone to their website just to kind of find out what this development corporation does, and they have rehabilitated homes all over all over Salt Lake County and Davis County. And it looks like and they also work in the area of helping people who are going through foreclosures, giving them counseling and those types of things. And it sounds like a really good program, and I'm glad that we're going to embrace it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving 1327, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any that oppose? That passes unanimously. Let's look at 1328, Mr. Pyle.
Thanks, sir. This resolution would allow execution of a road impact reimbursement agreement between the city and a company named Planet Tooth Reserve, LLC. So they are a dental office located at 2682 South Anna Carolyn Drive. And basically they are going to put into place road infrastructure improvements, which we will then reimburse them for under the terms of this agreement as it's executed, in the amount of just under $18,000.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or motion on that one?
I would move for approval of Resolution 13-28.
Second.
Thank you.
Steve's.
Okay, appreciate Steve for seconding it. Any discussion for that motion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. Mr. Pyle, 1329.
Thank you, sir. So in the process of construction of the new golf course, or reconstructed golf course that formerly was known as the Westridge Golf Course, it's time to put floor coverings or approve the expenditure for the floor coverings in the Cova House. And so we're proposing that in the amount of $44,611 and would award that contract to Wasatch Front Floor Coverings.
Okay, thank you, sir. So you say it's formerly Westridge Golf Course. What are we calling it now?
Well, we're planning on calling this the Ridge Golf Club.
Thank you. And again, the fiscal funds are out of the negotiated money UDOT gave us for the reconstruction of that and rebirth of that course, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Council, any discussion or motion there?
I'm just a little worried about the floors being installed in the right place, since the resolution says it's going to be installed at Westridge Clubhouse.
We'll make sure that any kind of confusion as to where the location actually is taken care of before the contractor gets there.
They'll see the big signs that say Westridge Estates and can lead them to it.
All right. Anyone like to make a motion on this one?
Move for approval of Resolution 1329.
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. Our final resolution, 1330. Mr. Pyle.
Thank you, sir. We are proposing entering into an agreement with WorkMed. They will be doing some workers' compensation related services. For example, drug testing, new hire physicals, assisting us in getting employees back to work after injuries, that sort of thing.
Great, thank you. Any discussion, council?
Mayor, I move approval of Resolution 1330.
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion of this motion? All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. We have two items of new business this evening. Mr. Pyle, if you could please introduce application PUD 1 2013.
Thank you, sir. The first one is a final plat approval at 1600 West and 3860 South. This is the Trong PUD Phase 1 final plat. Consists of 27 residential lots and 1 commercial lot.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion or motion?
Motion to approve application number PUD-1-2013.
Second, and I think it's great to have a plat proposed by Mr. Platt.
Okay, any discussion of this motion? Okay, all in favor of the final plat approval for Mr. Platt, say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose? It's unanimous. Congratulations. Next item, application S-17-2012.
Thanks, sir. We have another final plat approval before you. This one is located at 2860 South and 5120 West by Ivory Homes and consists of 12 lots on 6.2 acres.
Okay. Thank you, sir. It's been a while since we've seen such large lots being developed in our city, but that A lot of nice new homes coming in West Valley, and despite the housing downturn, it's great to see large homes coming in. Would anyone like to make a motion to that effect?
Mayor, I move approval of application S-17, 2012.
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion there?
Just as you bring up the large lot size, the one lot on the end is kind of so large that it's a little bit awkward, and hopefully they have some maybe some landscaping expertise to be able to fill that with house and yard and have it be a good addition to the community.
Yeah, it tempts me to move out of my district.
It's a 0.59 acre, which in these days is large, but plenty of persons handled a half acre before.
Yeah, it's not so much the size, it's the
depth.
Yeah,
it's kind of a,
configuration of the lot itself.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion?
Sorry, Mayor, it just kind of popped up with a thought there, sprung out of my head. I thought I might emphasize this one a little bit. The scout troop that's back here in the corner actually is from the area where this final plat is being considered for, so it's my item of interest to them, I would think. You actually get to see how subdivision approval processes happen, or at least one phase of those in your very own neighborhood. So this is across the street from, I forgot the name of the street.
Sandwell Drive?
And
where that is?
So south of Sandwell Drive, right there in the single-family subdivision.
And do you know where Brixham Way is? Brixham Way would continue on into have a little Bexley Court, and you'd have nice new homes there on a big lots. So it's how it happens. Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. We have additional commentary. All in favor of S-17, 2012, say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose? Okay, we come to item 12. Any need for an executive session tonight, Mr. Pyle?
Not for me, sir, no.
Okay, we come to item 13, which is to adjourn.